Hey everyone, I'm so excited about today's episode, but first want to let you know that this show is made possible by Fortune Builders. I also want to take a minute to invite you guys to an amazing opportunity to learn from some of the top experts in the real estate industry about how to get started in real estate or scale an existing business to the next level. Fortune Builders is hosting a one-day webinar to help you learn about real estate investing in today's market. So throughout the show, if you feel like you're ready to get started, go to fortunebuildershow.com to register. Again, that's fortunebuildershow.com to register. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you'll find a link right below the show so you can get there that way as well. And please remember that the content of this show and every show is for educational purposes only. Myself or our guests are not going to be providing any legal, financial, or professional advice. If we share specific results, they are attributed to an individual or a business, and we can't guarantee the results will happen for you, those earnings or the income will match those figures. The bottom line is there's always risk when investing in real estate. You can make a lot of money or you can lose a lot of money, and it's hard work. But that doesn't mean we can't have fun doing it. So let's get into today's episode.
From a team that has $1 billion in real estate investment experience. A show to help you learn the strategies and systems it takes to get started investing in real estate. This is the Fortune Builders Real Estate Investing Show.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Fortune Builders Real Estate Investing Show. I am Jeff Rakowski here with our co-host JD Asajan. It's good to have you here, man. It's been a little while since we've been together.
It's good to see you in the booth again. Yeah. I'm super excited about what we're covering on this show and just happy to be here.
Yeah, me too, man. Anytime we get JD in the booth, it's hot off the press, what's happening in CT Homes, and I cannot wait to get into what we're about to talk about today. But first, let's get into the word of the week. This week, our word of the week is ARV, also known as ARV. ARV, baby. ARV, or ARV, is after repair value. That's what it stands for. That's what it represents. Whenever you're evaluating a property as a real estate investor, whether you're looking to wholesale that property or flip that property, we need to, gather a lot of information, but probably two of the biggest pieces is what is it worth after we fix it up? Or as a wholesaler, what will it be worth after our rehab buyer fixes it up? And then we need to know the repair cost. And then we plug those numbers into a little tool that CT Homes uses called the Deal Analyzer. And then we know what offer to make or what not to make. So ARV, really as is condition of a property is really whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. But as an investor, we need to forecast, we need to project what is this thing going to be worth after the improvements you plan on making are done. And that's how you formulate your offer. So enjoy the word of the week and enjoy the rest of the show. You ready, buddy?
I'm ready to go.
All right, let's go, man. Let's go. Probably, one of the top questions I know you get asked, because you share it with me all the time, is, basically, how the heck are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I've said it before on the show, but 2021 CT Homes, 123 deals in the books, the most profitable year in the company's history during probably the most competitive market we've seen in our lifetime. You guys went from about 1 out of every 23 offers accepted to 1 out of 14.
Yeah.
So this is something a lot of our students ask. We were talking about it here before the show, and you really, boil it down to 3 main things.
Sure.
3 main things. And I just want to unpack those today. I just want you to provide as much value or, jump in with anything else that you have in mind. But we are here. We're on a mission to help people succeed. And I know you guys are doing it at the highest level. CT Homes is our prototype. It is the standard.
Absolutely. And we've talked about acquisitions before on the show. I thought it would be, this will allow us to look at after analyzing the last year.
Yeah.
Really the 3 biggest things that allowed us to perform the way we did last year that anyone and everyone listening or watching can apply.
Absolutely.
And we'll break those down because it's not just one thing, we have cash or, oh, well, you guys have been doing this for over 18 years, or, oh, well, people like JD's beard. No, that's not that's not the reason we buy. It's a combination of things, but the three things that we're going to touch on, if you implement them and execute them, you will be able to do more deals.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you know, new students that come into our program, actually, one of the very first things we have them do and teach them is learning their market and really getting to know their market. I know that's your first point.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing that you guys, I just see from observing at the, you know, doing it at the highest level is it's not like you studied and you put in some work and now you know your market. Right. I mean, these are weekly habits. These are daily habits that you are doing to know, you know, your market.
Sure.
And obviously capitalize on the trends. Because, you know, we all listen to news in some way, shape, or form, and we hear reports about the real estate market. But normally what we're hearing is on a national or maybe a regional level.
Yeah.
But it's important that we know the zip codes, the actual cities, you know,
1,000%
where we're investing. So unpack that for us, JD.
Yeah.
How does CT Homes know their market on a daily basis?
So it relates right to our word of the day, right? The after repair value, knowing what that is. Or you might even look at the NRV, which is the no repair value, and which is something I just came up with right now. But what that would look like is in a market we're in now, because of the fast-paced change of the market in terms of value, you may be able to buy something and actually not even need to do any work and have an increased value when you decide to go sell it or when you put it back on the market. So I would say not the number one thing that makes a successful investor is understanding and knowing their market. And so talking about how do we do that and what made 2021 so successful is, you know, the market changed quickly from day to day. And in certain times of the year or in certain different decades, the market doesn't change as fast as it did this last year. But knowing what the market's doing, studying it, and knowing where it's been, where it's at now, and where it's going is vital. So the number one thing that we do at CT Homes to make that possible is on a daily basis, we look at some key indicators. We look at the overall, whether it's by zip code or whether it's by county, we do both, is we look at the overall available inventory.
Right.
Okay, so we look 100%. At how much available inventory is at any given time. We also want to look at, of course, our median price point in those areas as well.
Right.
Other things that are important with market knowledge are what are how many days on market are properties sitting on the market. I think another key one to look at is the available months of inventory in a particular marketplace. So those are some of the big ones that we look at. So, I suggest investors look at those at least once a week.
Yeah.
But I would also encourage investors to look at it almost daily because it changes rapidly.
Sure.
But at a minimum, we want to look at those once a week. And so if we can forecast, and I'm not saying speculate because there's a difference, but if you're knowledgeable and you study your market and that allows you to focus on your after repair value and know what that number is. It also allows you to understand, is it possible with what buyers are paying for properties to be able to do less work or no work and put it back on the market. And the other thing that if I look back at 2021, and I have, it allowed us to offer on more property. And what I mean by that is it opened up more available inventory to us.
Okay.
Whereas in previous years, properties that needed maybe less work, we weren't able to buy just because the values weren't changing the way they are. So it allowed us to look at zip codes in our county differently and be able to, in effect, open up more available inventory, even in a market like a lot of us are experiencing where there's limited inventory.
Yes. This NRV, I want to pause there for a minute. Somebody's going to hear this and go write a book on NRV, but we have the tape. JD came up with it right here, February, whatever day it is.
I literally did as you were talking about the ARV and the word of the week. And so, I haven't analyzed it to the point of wrote a system around it, but it is it is interesting because the markets is always competitive. I don't care what type of market we're in. There's always other people investing, but what's become very challenging is that buyers are getting priced out of the marketplace in a lot of cases because the increase in values. But what we started to look at is, well, hey, if we do less work or no work, can we put it back on the market at a price that is more affordable for more people?
Yeah.
And so maybe we don't sell it for the in value after we do all the work. We sell it for a lower number, but we've done less work and we've held it for less time.
Right.
So our return on investment can be equal, or in some cases greater.
Amazing. So you're not buying, because you've taught for years. You never buy hoping for appreciation,
correct.
Right?
Never.
So you're not doing that. You're just looking at it and saying, all right, based on the way the market is appreciating, I have my ARV. We could rehab it. We could put $100,000 into it, or whatever the budget was.
Yeah.
We can make this number, but we also can just stage it, clean it up, and make close to that number. That's kind of what you're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah. And you're not able to do that quickly and effectively if you're not researching and studying your market every day.
Yeah.
And that can back you into, doing that type of an investment. And again, we're not saying, oh, I hope someone pays this. We're looking at, what did that pending down the street sell for? What was the condition of it? And then making that decision and putting the numbers back into the deal analyzer and saying, well, man, we can own this for 45 days.
Yeah.
And, we make a certain amount of money that's equal to the ROI if we held it for 5 months and spent $75,000 or $100,000.
That's amazing. I mean, folks, one article I was reading, I was sharing with JD, NAR came out with a report just wrapping up 2021, and 2/3 of all major metros across the United States, Southern California certainly being in that equation, double-digit appreciation just in the month of December. And I believe it tracked the same way for January. I don't know if those numbers came out, but double-digit appreciation. So when have your finger on the pulse, like JD is talking about, you're going to recognize those opportunities where other investors are going to go spend 5 months on that deal, like you just said, to make the same profit you just made in 45 days.
Yeah, and I want to be clear with everyone watching and listening. We're definitely not speculating.
Yeah.
There is always an element of risk anytime we buy something, but we're making sound decisions based off of what the market is telling us, like real-time data. Because if you look at what the value of the home is going to be when you're making your buying decision, and then you have that after repair value, and you never look at it again until you go to sell the home, that number is going to change.
Right.
So if I back up to like when COVID took effect across the world, really, one of the key things we did is we hunkered down and really started to look at our numbers every day. And it's put us into a position to be able to make better decisions on the properties that we own. Like, do we need to do a full-blown scope of work, or can we reduce it? Or maybe we are in the middle of the rehab and this one pending goes sold and they had, these other features. And if we add that deck or we add that, awesome sliding door because that other property had it, we might be able to push the value even more. So it is definitely the number one thing when I look at what has made us successful over these last, really since we started, but definitely what made last year the best year on record for CT Homes it was having an in-depth, deeper knowledge of the market.
Yeah, no, I love listening to your Monday morning reports on the market. Just to recap for the audience is, and you could add if I'm missing something here, but really on that daily basis, you're looking at the amount of new listings. You're looking at the amount of sold properties, the amount of pending properties.
Yes.
You're looking at list to sales price.
Correct.
Ratio. You're looking at days to market, and you're looking at absorption rate. How much current inventory. Anything I'm missing? No,
those are the big ones. I mean, we couple that against looking at national indicators like the interest rates for borrowed money, because that affects, that will affect supply and demand, buyer interest, et cetera. So, but the numbers that you broke down are the big ones because it tells us, what supply has been available or is available now in relationship to the buying demand out there.
Exactly.
And then when you're looking at that every day and every week, you'll see subtle changes that will ultimately can relate to bigger changes down the road. For example, when you see a number of weeks where in your marketplace, the amount of pending properties, the properties that get an offer accepted, are outpacing the amount of new listings that come on, and you have that variance in that gap. So more people are going into contract to buy a home than new properties are coming on the market.
Yeah.
If that's happening over a couple of weeks, you're probably going to see a drop in inventory.
Sure.
Right. And then that can give you those indicators before and as they're happening.
Yeah, 100%. And just to refresh everyone's memory is, what's considered a balanced market would be 6 to 7 months of inventory. When you have 7 months or more of inventory, that would be officially a buyer's market. Anything below 6 months of inventory is a seller's market.
Yes.
And I know in most of the zip codes around here, I mean, we're sub minus a month.
Yeah, less than a month.
Yeah, less than a month of inventory. So that's a metric you want to know, in your market. And then you see that, man, if there's 3 months of inventory, 4 months, that is a strong seller's market. Inventory is low. Demand is going to increase. Yeah. And as long as interest rates don't do anything crazy, little tick up is okay. But as long as nothing crazy happens, I mean, prices are going to go up.
Yeah, and it allows you to move quicker, be more nimble, faster with your offers, be more confident with your offers. So coming back to, the intent of the show today is how do we buy more houses? How do we put more properties into our pipeline? And it's moving quicker, and having that knowledge of the market will allow you to do that.
Yeah, speed of implementation, baby. That's
absolutely.
Tony Robbins did a massive survey years ago, hundreds of thousands of business owners, salespeople. What's the number one quality that makes you succeed? And it came back to speed of implementation. But you can't move quickly if you don't know what the market's doing.
Yes.
So that, to me, that's the key takeaway right there. Is if this is something that you're not tracking on a regular basis, make this part, of your daily routine in your business, in your weekly routine. Yeah. Get your finger on the pulse.
100%. I mean, nothing we're going to talk about on the rest of the show will be as impactful without knowing what the market's doing. Yeah.
Totally true. Totally true. We were joking before the show, but I just feel like I'm not even a hockey fan or even a Wayne Gretzky fan, but man, that guy has such good quotes.
He does have good quotes.
He does. I think we'll use 2 today probably, but you don't skate until the puck is. You skate to where the puck is going.
Well said,
and,
Wayne.
And that example you use with the no repair value, that's exactly what you're doing is you're seeing where the puck is going and you're just positioning yourself there. So that's it. Nothing magic here, folks. This is just education, and this is just consistency. But let's move on to the second point. So knowing your market KPIs,
absolutely,
which we broke down. Number one, and then number 2, that would lead you to your company's acquisitions KPIs. Yes. So break that down for us.
Yeah. So you've got obviously market stats, market knowledge, et cetera. But then if you look micro at your business, you've got the numbers that you're performing or not performing on. And so we as a company, we look at those every single day as well. I mean, the first number to talk about is how many offers are we writing? We're never going to buy properties if we're not writing offers. We know that.
Right.
But what a lot of people underestimate is how many offers it takes to buy a good deal.
It's so true.
Right. I mean, we talk to a lot of investors in our community, and I know you do the same thing. We ask, how many offers did you write? And when that number is lower than we know it should be, that's one of the number one things we focus on. So how many offers we write. And I think it's important, I know it's important that anytime we write an offer and go through the energy of doing that, we track it. We track that offer and we see, what happens. We follow up, which we'll get to a little bit. But that's the number one thing is tracking how many offers that you write. And then over time, we can compare that against how many properties we buy, and we can start to have that metric that you alluded to earlier as to how many properties on average or how many offers on average we need to write to buy one home.
Yeah.
And then when you have those numbers tracked, you can start to look at, well, I wrote an offer, it didn't get accepted, and you can start to break down that and understand, why that offer didn't get accepted. Did it sell for more money? And then you can double check your repair, and you can start to do things and analyze and backtrack so that the next offer you write will be more accurate. So that's very important. That's a very important number. The other number that's been very important for us over time is the amount of properties that we lock up versus we actually close on. So when I say lock up, right, you know
under
what that
contract.
means, under contract.
Yeah.
We get the offer accepted.
Yep.
Comparing that to how many times we buy that home that we have gotten the offer accepted on. Now, in a perfect world, that number would be 100%.
Sure.
But it isn't always the case. So when that isn't 100%, what was the reason we didn't buy that property that we got the offer accepted on?
What trends do you see there, JD? Like, for the ones that you don't end up buying, is there any common factor that repeats itself?
I would say that the big picture answer is we missed the mark on a number somewhere.
Got it.
Not to say we made a mistake, but maybe we put the property under contract. we send a series of inspectors through, and something pops up that we didn't necessarily foresee, like, for example, the sewer line under the ground that we don't have the ability to look at without being scoped out. So some change in the numbers. What I've seen with other investors over time, common scenarios are they don't have all the pieces of the puzzle put together, meaning they're not sure where their financing is going to come from.
Got it.
Right. So they're not able to perform on the terms that they've offered because their financing, they haven't locked it in. They're not aware of how long it takes for their lender to process the loan. And then also they're unsure on their numbers or unsure on their KPIs or the market KPIs.
Got it.
So those are really the two main things I've seen why properties don't get why people fall out of contract on a property that they spend the time locking up. So those are the two big ones that I would say. There's a lot more that we look at, but in relationship to buying more homes, it's how many offers we write, and then having a metric and looking at why do we get a property under contract or an offer accepted and we don't close on it.
Sure.
Those would be the big ones.
Yeah, I love it. And then also, I always think of this business. I mean, this is how you've taught me over the years as a series of systems, right?
Yeah.
So obviously marketing, is really the system that kicks everything out. Marketing goes out, whether it's MLS, whether it's direct mail, whatever it is, a lead comes in. Then you have a certain number of leads that you ultimately, you evaluate the property and you write offers on. What would be some reasons, JD, where a lead comes in, and you don't write an offer on it? You don't, what would be the reasons to cause that?
A lead comes in, we don't write an offer on it. The seller is completely unmotivated or unrealistic on where their price or where their home should sell for would be one thing that comes to mind. There is some underlying scenario with the property or the sellers or the trust that it's being sold that doesn't allow them to sell the property. There's a cloud on title that isn't known by the seller that we uncover through our analysis. But really in this market or in any market, if you write an offer that has contingencies in it that allows you to solve or figure out those scenarios, you can get through the ones that I just mentioned. But those would be common ones why a lead would come in and we'd say, well, it's not worth our time or it's not beneficial because there's a tenant in there and they are squatting and the rules in my state are very favorable to tenants, and we could be in a scenario where we're in a lawsuit in court for 2 years.
How did that deal ever work out? You had you had like the son living upstairs, the mom downstairs, restraining orders against each other.
Yeah.
How'd that play out?
It's still playing out.
Yeah.
Wow. So the more that the attorneys, and there's multiple attorneys involved, have dug into it, the one of the heirs' attorney, the mom's attorney, the title company's attorney, it appears on both sides that there was some foul play. Meaning, we don't know for sure yet, so I'm making assumptions based off what the attorneys are telling us. But both sides have some fault here, and there may be an issue where the mother that sold the home didn't have the ability to do that. Ooh. We don't know for sure yet, with her son not signing off. At the same time, it appears that the son unfortunately might have done some things earlier on to get himself in a position to be able to be in the will when he shouldn't have been able to. So long story short, there's a lot more discovery and we're working on it. I think backing up to what'll make that deal successful is that we bought it with the worst case scenario, the longest hold timeline, the worst case financial with regards to the attorneys needing to handle it. So I'll get back to you when we have
that deal is just a gift that keeps on giving. We're at the San Diego boot camp a few weeks ago, and a student's like, "Whatever happened to that deal? You talked about it on the show."
Oh, they asked you?
Yeah. So we're gonna have to make sure that we stay on top of that one. But but the bottom line is we're writing offers on as many properties as we can, right? If there's a highly unmotivated seller, and we discover that through a series of questions, then we're not going to waste our time and look at the properties. But definitely don't talk yourself out of writing offers.
Exactly.
We got to take the shots.
And the first point that we talked with our market knowledge allows us, as I mentioned, to be in a position to write offers on more properties because we understand what that market or that neighborhood or that county is doing. it has allowed us to offer on properties, as I mentioned, that didn't in previous years wouldn't have worked because of the values at that time or the way the market had been shifting. So it will open up more doors to be able to write more offers on.
Yeah. Wayne Gretzky again, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes.
We were talking before the show, actually, a deal recently that you guys locked up that you were the only offer on. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, like that quote from Wayne Gretzky, you're going to miss, every shot that you don't take. So we can guarantee everyone listening and watching, if you don't ever write an offer or on a property, you're never going to buy that home.
Yeah.
And this happens actually a lot. The story that I was telling you earlier was last week, or excuse me, at the end of last year, and it's happened this year too.
Yeah.
The price of the home that the seller wanted or it was listed for was really high, like way higher than we'd be able to buy the home for.
Sure.
So some people might look at that and say, well, the seller's never going to accept my price because it's way lower than they want for the home. But we don't focus on what the seller's asking for the home. We focus on what we can pay for the home.
Sure.
And in that scenario that I'm talking about, and it's happened repeatedly, we'll present our offer and we'll end up finding out that we were one of, or maybe the only offer that the seller got, because other investors look at that and pass on it as well because it's priced.
They'll never accept my offer.
They'll
right?
never accept my offer.
Yeah.
So you get, no offer is not good.
Yeah.
Verbal offer is better than a written offer, or a verbal offer is better than no offer.
Yeah.
But a written offer is better. It trumps all.
Yeah. Get those offers out there. Get them out there, and understand too that statistically, you write one offer, you're probably not going to get it accepted, but you never know.
Yeah.
But
volume.
Volume. It's all about volume. Just cranking them out. Man, this is good stuff. So we got the market KPIs, the acquisition KPIs, and we'll move on to step number 3, your offer system that is working like unbelievably well. Now that I want you to share. Before we do though, just the acquisitions part of this business is so important. Just how you analyze deals, how you quickly arrive at that after repair value. You quickly arrive at a repair cost. You're able to crunch the numbers. And really, I mean, what you've taught for years is you want to be, JD, roughly about only 90 minutes to maybe 2 hours into any deal before you're writing the offer, right?
Yeah.
And you learn very quickly after 15, 30 minutes whether you should just, throw it in the garbage can, so to speak. But if you're listening to this and you haven't taken action because you've been hesitant, well, I don't know how to make quick decisions. I don't know how to calculate the ARV. We actually have a brand new weekly class that we started. Actually, myself and a gentleman named Woody and Brian with 3 different trainers. So you get one of us. Happens on a weekly basis. And we'd be honored if you attend. It's only a 3-hour class, but it's really designed to solve 2 of the biggest problems that real estate investors face. Is one, how do I find discounted properties, aka motivated sellers? And then once I do, how do I quickly evaluate them so I can take action? That's what it's designed for. And just we've had so many requests for that, being in such a competitive market now. So if you're interested in learning that skill set, below the video, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, fortunebuildershow.com, you can grab yourself a free ticket to that event. If you're listening by radio, it's fortunebuildershow.com as the URL. But let's get into number 3, JD. So your offer system.
Yes.
So on a daily basis, we're staying on top of what the market is doing.
Yes.
We're tracking all of our acquisition KPIs, and because the whole thing with KPIs, guys, is if you can't measure it, you can't improve it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the purpose. When you get all this data, and you have maybe a month under your belt or a quarter, then you've established a baseline. And then I know JD and CT Homes, they're looking to beat that. They're looking to perform better. But then ultimately, it's going to bring us to your offer system that now you've known the market, you've evaluated the property, you wrote the offer. But what are you doing consistently to get so many offers accepted?
And we've refined, that's a great question, and we've refined it over 18 plus years. But what we've boiled it down to are like five things that we focus on. And I wrote them down just so I make sure I hit them in order. It's finding or filtering, if you're looking on the MLS, like finding what you're going to offer on. Now, maybe your offer area is your whole county or your whole zip code.
Sure.
So it's understanding and filtering what you're going to, the leads that you're going to offer on. Then we have a process of getting information. And we've broken that down into step 2 is calling the seller or calling the agent and getting information. And then we actually analyze the property.
Okay.
So we get information from the seller or the agent in terms of seller motivation. Why is someone selling? Are there any special terms? Things that we've talked about.
Yeah.
In the past, we understand what the person is trying to accomplish, the seller's trying to accomplish. And then we use that data to analyze, right? The market data, we go check the repairs, verify, get inspections in there.
Sure.
And then we call back and actually submit the offer.
Okay.
And so we're not calling immediately and throwing a number in front of someone. We're gathering information that we need to analyze it. And then so step 4 is actually writing the offer. And then 5, and this happens a lot, we don't get our offer accepted, and we have a series of follow-up and staying in front of the seller, staying in front of the agent, depending on what kind of property it is.
Got it.
To put ourselves in a position to buy that home, in the immediate future or not immediate future, depending on what their needs are. And so those are and there's a rhythm to it. There's a reason why we order it that way, because we've tested and measured things over the years. And so by structuring your offer system that way, it allows you to put yourself in a position to buy more homes, use the market data that we've already talked about, use your acquisitions KPIs. And man, I'd love to be able to say that's the number one thing that's allowed us to buy more homes this last year, but it's coupled with our statistics and KPIs for our business and then for the market. Because when you have those things and you formalize your offer system this way, you put yourself in the driver's seat.
100%.
And so those are the 5 steps that we go through, and really the order that we go through them is as important as all 5 of them.
Yeah, no, I get it. It reminds me of one of our mutual mentors, Andy. He says a ton of feathers still equals a ton. It's kind of like what I'm hearing here. They're like everyone's looking for what is that one magic, knockout blow that that you're doing. But it's just a series of things that you're disciplined in. You're doing on a consistent basis. You're
improving, testing, and measuring. And you're right. There's all different types of lead sources. We'd love to sit here and say, well, if you offer on this kind of lead source, you're going to get more offers accepted. But there isn't just one thing. It's a combination of the things that you do and consistency over time. Structuring your offer the right way. As coming back to the step 3 of your offer system, for many, many years, we would call up or go to the seller and get an offer in front of them, talk numbers sometimes too soon. And what we realized is that we didn't have all the information to write the strongest offer. And so by, breaking that out and looking at, okay, what do we need to write an offer? Well, we need market data. We need our own, rehab numbers. But we also need to know what the other party that we're negotiating with is trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
And so by doing that and discovering more information, it makes our offers more competitive. It's allowed us to get more offers accepted. It's allowed us to build more relationships with agents. So it's a big deal, and we've learned that over time. So the order of the operation is as important as any of them.
Got it. So you start with the filtering or the finding, right? So like I don't know, maybe let's use like MLS, right, as an example. Is I know you have a team every day where they're looking through. They could only reach out to a number of deals in that given day. What are you seeing? What are you filtering down to say, okay, we're prioritizing this one today to start gathering more information?
So if we're looking on the MLS, we're looking for, do we have a relationship with the agent? Do we know that agent? Have we done other business with them? And because that could be a good, entry point.
Sure.
We're looking at, certainly price. If they have it priced very competitively, they're going to get a lot of interest, but we want to be one of those interested parties.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing we're looking at and really filtering, maybe calling on first, is the ones that are overpriced for the reasons I just mentioned.
Interesting.
Because they'll probably get less interest. If there's a listing that has one picture of the outside of the home, like literally one picture, and they have it way overpriced, that to us is the lowest hanging fruit, because there's a reason why there's only one picture. Sure. And if it's overpriced, we want to be that one or maybe more than one offer that they get. So that's what we're looking for. Relationship to the agent. We're looking at condition of the home with pictures or with no pictures, and then we're looking at price as well. Is it priced very well, or is it priced very high? And frankly, we call on the ones that are priced very high.
Interesting.
First.
Yeah, I like that.
Because of the reasons I mentioned. The other thing that's important, if we're talking specifically about the MLS, is the time that you decide to call, because you're calling agents. That's who we're calling.
Yeah.
And what we've found over the years is that between 8 to 9:30 window has seemed to be the best time to actually get the other party, the agent, on the phone.
Okay.
And because after that, it isn't always the case.
Yeah,
but after that, they're out, at listing appointments. They're out at showings.
Sure.
But if we can catch them in that 8 to 9:30 window, we find ourselves, first off, it's earlier in the day, so we have, a better likelihood of actually maybe getting our offer in first.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're less busy and more likely to take our call.
I love it. That's interesting. I'm learning a lot here. This is great. Let's keep
so
going, man.
The timing is as important as what you say when you call.
Yeah.
So that's been a big differentiator to help get our offer accepted.
And when you see something that fits your criteria, maybe you have a connection with the agent, it's overpriced, et cetera. During that initial call, what are some of the talk tracks you're using? How are you opening the conversation? What are you looking for primarily? What's the goal?
Well, if we know the agent, then it's different, right? We're reminding them of this other transaction that we did, or if we have a really good relationship with them, it's hopefully like old pals talking.
Yeah, exactly.
So we try to just reestablish that commonality with the agent.
Yeah.
We also are asking that agent for any other information about the property that we don't, and this is important, that we don't already see in the listing.
Okay.
Because what you don't want to do is say, Jeff, can you tell me about the property? And then they say, well, did you
read it?
Did you look at the listing? So I would say, Jeff, hey, good to talk to you again. Is there anything else about the property you can share that isn't already in the listing? Because I've seen that. And then so we're asking that. We're also asking for seller motivation too. Hey, Jeff, are there any other special terms? And why is the seller selling? Are there any other special terms that your seller would like to see in our offer that would help our offer stand out?
Yeah. That's a brilliant question. I remember, early on in my career, I was really surprised. As investors, a lot of times the most important piece to us is the price we're buying at. Mm-hmm. So you automatically assume that's going to be the most important thing to the seller as well. But by asking that question, you kind of uncover, some different motivations.
Sure.
Relocation or, moving or whatever.
Quick sale or not a quick sale.
Yeah.
You've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
Price is just one term in an offer.
That's right.
So if you've got, 10 things in an offer that can stand out to the seller, and there's more than that, but let's just use that number. Price is one of those, and it may be at the top, it may not be at the top. But if you can understand by asking that question how to make those other 9 things besides price scream as loud to the seller as possible, then price coupled with those other things makes your offer like, oh my, this is the dream offer. This is the offer I've been waiting for. Right. This is the offer I have to accept right now.
Oh, I love it. So after you gather that information, then you're going to evaluate, you get your RV, you get your repair, you write the offer. And then number 4, I love it, the closing call, right? Yeah. So that's where you're trying to make all those terms scream, as you just said.
Exactly.
So what does that closing call sound like?
So that's where we call back to present our offer. Now, if we're close on, meaning if we're close on the price that we're offering in relationship to what the seller's asking, then it's a little easier of a conversation. Because they want $200,000 for the home, we're offering $185,000. It's reasonable.
You're in the ballpark.
But if our number is way different, like way lower, then what we're doing before we present the offer or the number is we're restating some of the reasons why our offer is going to be at the number that we're getting to. So one thing I forgot or I didn't mention is when we're talking to the agent on the discovery call to get information, we want to ask him or her what their opinion of the value is when the house is done. So ARV is the word of the week, which is that number, but we don't use ARV because not everyone knows that acronym. So we don't want to say something to the agent that would make them feel uncomfortable because they don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
So when we know what their opinion of the value is, when we call them back, if we're on the same page with that number, then we can back into our offer price. So it makes sense, right? We've got X amount of work. We're estimating 4 months of hold time. We've got holding costs. So our offer is X. And then we kind of stop and let them process that.
Right.
But then we remind them of these other terms that are in the offer that hopefully are speaking to what the seller needs because we've asked that question on the discovery call. What are the other terms that the seller is looking for? So if the price is the good number to focus on, we do that. If not, then we focus on the other terms that are equally, from what they told us, are equally as important to the seller.
I love it. That's a great strategy too. A lot of times, when we learn certain things, we like to use like our lingo and our language, for whatever reason. But always making sure when you're talking to people that you're bringing it down to something that they can understand, right? And then you're really essentially what you're doing is getting the ARV from them without putting that on them.
And we're really selling the agent. We're talking about listed properties. We're really selling the agent on why our offer is worthy of being accepted. So if we do that well to you as the agent, Jeff, you're going to go to your client and hopefully do the same thing.
Exactly.
If we don't explain whether they agree with it or not, if I don't explain to you why our offer makes sense, they're never going to do that to their seller.
Yeah.
So, and that's why one of the reasons we broke out the call into getting information and then submitting the offer is because we want to come back to you as the agent, Jeff, and give you the ammunition to go tell your seller why our offer makes sense.
I love you. So you're prepping them to communicate, as congruent as possible as you would.
Yes.
That's brilliant, man. That's brilliant. And then it comes down to number 5, the follow-up.
Yeah.
So you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you stated in 2021, 123 deals. And I think you said like 63 or 68 actually came from follow-up.
Yes.
Or going in a backup position.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was over 50%. It was a little over 60%. So you're right.
Yeah. So talk us through that. What does follow-up look like?
What
should we be doing?
So if you're not willing to track your offer, meaning like stay in front of it, don't even write the offer, because most of the time you're not going to get that offer accepted. I hope that everyone gets, their offer accepted every time right out of the gate, but that doesn't happen. So follow-up's very important. We've talked about that many times. The times that we follow up are when if we don't get our offer accepted, seller accepts another offer. We want to be in front of that seller at key points in that other escrow or that other contract point. And that's when the other buyer is supposed to submit money, the deposit, and then when they're supposed to remove all their contingencies. So we ask the agent, if we're talking about listed properties, we ask the agent if it'd be okay if we follow up with them. We'd also like to be, effective and respectful of follow-up. We'd like to, can you tell us when the other buyer is submitting their deposit?
Sure.
Oh, why do you want to know that, JD? Well, because I would like to follow up at that time. So if that other seller doesn't perform, we can be there to, or that buyer doesn't perform, we can be there to help your seller. Don't rely on the other agent or the seller following up with you. You be proactive and follow up with them. And then the same thing with the contingency removal. Contingency removal is when that buyer is saying, okay, I've checked everything, all my boxes are good, I'm releasing all my contingencies, and my deposit is in effect non-refundable.
Got it.
So we follow up at that time too, because historically those are the key points where if that other buyer isn't performing, that seller says, I'm done, with you, get me another offer, which is also why we try to get in a signed backup position, which you talked about a little bit earlier. Signed backup position is just the seller accepting our offer as offer number 2. So if that first buyer doesn't perform, we can slide into that first position. And so the combination of follow-up and being in backup position over 60% of the time last year got us into properties. There's been cases where we were because we use escrow in California to close properties, as you know. We were the 4th, 5th. And so there was one case where we were the 6th escrow that the seller went into. And had we not follow up on that property, that would have never been something we would have been able to buy.
Wow, 6 escrows.
Yeah. Can you imagine the seller fatigue at that point?
Right.
And they just want
somebody take this.
Someone take this.
Yeah.
So it's being consistent in your follow up. It's being really relentless, but also being respectful of the other side, and not to a point of follow up where you're annoying them and they don't want to talk to you anymore.
All about the follow up.
About the follow up.
I don't think Wayne Gretzky has a quote for follow up though. I can't think of one, but we'll have to ask him.
We'll have to ask him or come up with our own. Quote on follow up. But
I can't think of one off the top of my head. If anyone has a good quote, type it in. We need a good follow up quote there. But man, powerful stuff, JD. You always appreciate your time, man. I know how busy you are and all the
I
properties
love
you guys,
sharing the information.
you guys are juggling. But
what
yeah,
we're doing.
so I mean, just recap is we got to know our market, guys. We got to know what it's doing, where it's going. Minimum on a weekly basis. JD had suggested,
Yes.
daily. And then our acquisitions KPIs, right? If we're not measuring these things in our business, we don't know. We don't have a baseline. We don't know whether we're improving week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, and then the offer systems that JD just discussed. Definitely brilliant, man. What else is going on, man? Anything good? We had a great Super Bowl this past weekend.
Yeah.
I noticed though that the Raiders weren't there. The Raiders weren't there. What's your projection next year? Right,
I'm
year?
always optimistic at this time of the year for the next season, for the Raiders next season. I mean, it's been a couple of rough years, but we made it to the playoffs this last year. We'll see what happens. This time of year is interesting. You got the Olympics going on this year,
that's
which
right.
is
China.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. I like to watch the half pipe, so I've been watching that. There's
those are cool.
Some epic half pipe action last week.
Shaun White, I think, his last one, right?
Well, yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun to watch. So that's about it. Just enjoying our California weather that we've been having recently, which has been pretty epic. How about you? What's going on in the Rakowski world?
Not a whole lot, man. We got a little Mexico vacay coming up next week. Excited to sit back, and I decided to go no alcohol for 2022. Go dry
the whole year
on U.S. soil.
On U.S. soil.
So I will be having a margarita or two.
You're on vacation.
Yeah. But so that's that. Just settling into our new home. But all is well, man. All is well. But love learning from you, man. Just appreciate your time and just appreciate what you guys are doing with CT Homes, man. You just always keep
thank you,
pushing the limits and passing it on to us.
Love coming on the show and bringing up to date information, what we're doing, in real time, literally from before the show. I was upstairs in the CT Homes office talking about some offers using the systems that we just went over. I thought it'd be cool if we filter in a case study here or there of actual deals, like kind of from start acquisition, covering the systems we talked about, to rehab to sales. Maybe do one of those a month. I think that would be a great way to continue to add value, whether people are listening or watching.
Yeah, I think that's cool. If that's something that would interest you guys, let us know for sure, because we think you want it, but we want to be sure. We're thinking of once a month an actual case study from start to finish. How the deal was sourced, how it was placed under contract, what the renovations looked like. I think that'd be really cool.
I agree.
Yeah, so we'll make that happen next week, man. But all right, brother. Well, I appreciate you being here, and
great to see you as always.
See you next week, and see you guys next week as well on the Fortune Builders Real Estate Investing Show. Take care.